The file has no name. You almost miss it. 3 layers deep inside a server that's supposed to store payroll data for a laundromat chain in Phoenix, and there it is. A folder labeled with nothing but a string of numbers. No timestamp, no owner, no audit trail. It's 2:51 a.m. You've been inside this network for 6 hours running routine maintenance, and in 6 months of working for these people, you have never seen anything like this. You tell yourself not to open it. Your hand doesn't listen. Inside, dozens of files, real-time location pings, behavioral logs, movement analysis, vehicle tracking data, route patterns, all of it organized around a single designation stamped across every document in red. Subject Alpha. Someone is being watched, carefully, methodically, for months. You open the first file. Location pings cluster around a single building, then a secondary location, then a third, precise departures, predictable returns, a schedule mapped down to the minute. Okay, arrival, maybe. The organization has enemies. You've helped track a few of them yourself. That's probably all this is. You open a second file. Multiple vehicles, rotating shifts, not one guard, several, a structured, coordinated protective detail. Your throat tightens slightly. You open a third file, a map overlay, a city you recognize, and in the corner, a small marker, coded in the same shorthand used for law enforcement cross-references, a federal security perimeter. You sit back. Rivals don't get federal security perimeters. Informants don't get rotating protective details with multiple vehicles. Whoever Subject Alpha is, this person exists inside a security architecture that you have only ever read about, never seen mapped out like this. And then the second thought hits you, cold and immediate. You're looking at a classified surveillance operation run by a criminal organization. These files are not for general access. The server shouldn't even be visible from your access tier, which means the system may be logging every file you open. Right now, your name might be attaching itself to documents that are never supposed to have your name anywhere near them. You need to know who Subject Alpha is, but you also need to know if someone already knows you're looking. 2 questions. One of them might get you killed before you can answer the other. If you're the kind of person who needs to know how this ends, subscribe. Stories like this one are what this channel is built for. Let's go back. Fast. You don't need the whole story. You were a freelancer. Talented. The kind of person who found holes in systems that teams of professionals had already certified as clean. You worked in the gray. Not quite legal. Not quite not. Enough distance to sleep at night. Most nights. A man named Ortega changed that. You never went looking for him. Someone who knew your name. And eventually you were sitting across a laminate table in a diner outside Tucson, and he pushed an envelope toward you without explaining who he worked for. The number inside didn't require an explanation. You asked very few questions. You told yourself it was temporary. You told yourself you could leave. That was 6 months ago. Now you maintain access to servers across 4 states. You retrieve information on request. You stay quiet. And until tonight, the worst thing you'd ever found was a spreadsheet linking 3 shell companies to a cartel lieutenant in Sonora. Tonight is different. Back to the files. You make yourself slow down. Methodical. You approach this the way you'd approach any system. Start broad. Eliminate possibilities. Narrow toward the answer. The security detail is too large for a local target. The federal perimeter marker rules out anyone who doesn't operate under government protection. The behavioral logs suggest a subject with a rigid, protocol-driven schedule, the kind of structure imposed on someone, not chosen by them. You eliminate the first possibility, organized crime rival. No cartel lieutenant in the country carries this level of security architecture. You eliminate the second, federal informant. Informants get one handler and a burner phone. They don't get rotating vehicle details and mapped perimeters. You move to the third possibility, a high-ranking federal agent, someone deep inside an agency, maybe DEA, FBI, someone who's gotten close enough to the organization to warrant this kind of attention. It's possible, but the logs don't support it, because federal agents, even senior ones, don't have communication blackout windows. You find that detail buried in the 4th file. Specific time windows where Subject Alpha goes completely dark. No signals, no digital footprint. Periodic, predictable, and noted in the operational summary as, and you read this phrase twice, protocol consistent. You know what that phrase means. You've researched government security architecture for jobs that required it. Communication blackout windows that are protocol consistent belong to a very short list of individuals, people whose security isn't just personal, it's institutional, embedded in systems that were built before they existed and will outlast them. The list is not long. You open the most recent file, 6 days old, a venue, a city, and a date. 9 days from now, the organization knows exactly where Subject Alpha will be, not approximately, exactly, down to the arrival window, the entry route, and the gap in the protective rotation. You stare at the screen. You've been eliminating possibilities for the last 40 minutes, and you've run out of them. There is only one category of individual in this country who has communication blackout protocols, multi-vehicle federal security details, a mapped perimeter, and a predictable public schedule 9 days in advance. Your hands are completely still. The cursor blinks. The cooling fans hum. Subject Alpha is the President of the United States. The cartel has been mapping the President's movements for 4 months. And in 9 days, there's a window they've been building toward. Let that land for a second. Because now the question isn't just who are they tracking. The question is what happens in 9 days. And underneath that, quieter and closer. Does the cartel know you just read all of this? You force yourself to check. You pull up the server's activity layer, not the files themselves, but the logging architecture around them. And there it is. A passive monitoring thread running in the background of every access event on this partition. Every file you opened has been timestamped. Your session is logged. You have been sitting inside a classified surveillance operation for 53 minutes, and somewhere in this network, a record exists with your credentials attached to it. You close out. You scrub your session cache on your end. You close the laptop. You stand up. You sit back down. The next morning, nothing looks different. That's the thing that frightens you most. The world doesn't rearrange itself to signal danger. It stays exactly the same. Same apartment, same coffee, same message from Ortega arriving at 9:14 a.m. like it always does. Except this morning's message ends with a question. Did you have any connectivity issues last night? Saw some unusual traffic patterns on the Phoenix cluster. You read it 4 times. Unusual traffic patterns. You type back. Nothing on my end. Probably a server hiccup. His response takes 11 minutes. Longer than usual. Probably nothing. 2 words. The most frightening thing you've read in years. Because Ortega doesn't say probably. He's precise. He uses words like confirmed and verified and handled. You have worked with this man for 6 months, and you have never heard him use the word probably, which means one of 2 things. Either he doesn't know yet and is genuinely uncertain, or he knows exactly what happened, and he's measuring how you respond. You spend the next 3 hours unable to determine which one it is. In the afternoon, you go out. You need air. You need to move. You walk 2 blocks. Buy coffee you don't drink. And on the way back, you notice a dark sedan parked across the street from your building. You've never noticed it before. It might have been there for weeks. You might just be seeing things that were always there. That's what paranoia does. It doesn't create threats. It illuminates everything that was already present and asks you to decide what's real. You go upstairs. You sit by the window. The sedan doesn't move. That night, a message arrives from a contact you use for technical resources. Someone you've never met in person. An encrypted handle. Nothing more. 1 word. Careful. You stare at it. No context. No follow-up. Nothing to tell you whether this is about the server or something else entirely. This contact has sent ambiguous messages before. It might mean nothing. But the timing is not nothing. You think about the 9-day window. You think about the logged session. You think about Ortega's 11-minute pause before he typed probably nothing. You have 3 options, and you need to choose one before whoever reviewed those logs decides what to do with what they found. Option 1. Stay in position. Maintain your routine. Behave as if nothing happened. If they don't have enough to be certain yet, suspicious behavior becomes the evidence that confirms it. Option 2. Run. Move fast. Move quiet. Don't tell anyone. The problem is that people who work at this level of the organization don't simply leave. Running doesn't make you free. Running makes you a target they have permission to handle. Option 3. Reach out. Find someone who can help you navigate out of this. The problem with option 3 is that every person who might help you exists inside a world where trust is a transaction, and you have no idea what the price is or who's collecting it. What would you do? Seriously. 3 options. One of them could get you killed, and you have hours. Tell me in the comments. And if you're already this deep in the story, you know what to do with that like button. The second message from the encrypted contact arrives at 2:08 a.m. They reviewed the logs this morning. 5 words. Present tense, which means someone has already seen the session record. Someone inside the organization already knows that an unauthorized access event occurred on that server. And the morning message from Ortega suddenly makes a different kind of sense. He wasn't asking about connectivity issues. He was asking if you'd admit to them. You have a number. You've carried it for 5 months without ever using it. A contact passed to you through a channel you couldn't trace, from a person who described themselves only as someone who helps people in your situation find a way out. You assumed at the time it was either a federal asset or a trap. You dial it. It picks up on the second ring. You don't give your name. You say, "I found something I shouldn't have found. I need to talk." Silence. Then a voice. Calm, careful, deliberate. "We know what you found." You don't respond. "We've been watching that partition for 2 months. We couldn't access it from the outside. We needed someone already inside the network to trigger the file access and confirm the contents." The room is very quiet. "You're telling me this was deliberate. We're telling you that you're not in as much danger as you think, if you listen carefully." And here's where the floor tilts again, because that sentence could mean 2 things. It could mean they're offering protection, or it could mean that the danger was always theirs to control, and you're still inside it. You don't know who you're talking to. You don't know if this voice belongs to an agency, another organization, or something that doesn't have a clean name. You don't know if they're pulling you out of a trap or deeper into one. They tell you there's one thing left to do, a single action, disrupting a specific communication channel inside a system you already have access to, introducing a gap into the operational coordination at a critical point in the next 9 days. No attack, no target, a door quietly closed. They tell you it buys time. They tell you it makes your access logs look like an internal error rather than a breach. They tell you there's a route, a car, a location, documentation, waiting on the other side of a choice you have to make in the next 30 minutes. You ask, "How do I know you're not part of the same organization?" The voice says, "You don't, but consider what happens to you if you stay." You make the choice. You do the one thing they asked. You close the door. You don't see what happens on the other side of it. You're already gone. The route is exactly where they said it would be. The car, the location, the documentation, everything clean, everything prepared, too clean. That thought doesn't come to you until 3 weeks later, in a city you've never lived in, with a name that technically belongs to someone else. You're watching a news broadcast. Nothing dramatic, just the president at a public event, the kind of thing that happens routinely, and the date on the screen registers. 10 days after the window. The event in the cartel's files never happened. The 9-day window passed without the outcome that was planned for it. The operation, whatever it was, fractured before it reached the target. You tell yourself, you stopped it. You believe that for about 4 more days. And then you start to think about the timing. The encrypted contact who sent careful, they knew about the log review before you did. Before you could have known. Which means they had access to the organization's internal systems at the exact moment you were inside the same network. They weren't warning you. They were watching you. And the voice on the phone, "We needed someone already inside the network to trigger the file access and confirm the contents." What exactly does that mean? It means the file was found because someone needed it to be found, by someone with your specific access, your specific credentials. You think about how Ortega found you. The chain of introductions that led to the diner in Tucson, the envelope, the number. You think about the contact who passed you the phone number you used to call for help. When did they give you that number? 5 months ago. 4 months before you found the folder. 3 months before the subject alpha files were even created, based on the earliest timestamp. The exit route was prepared before you knew you'd need it. The folder was accessible to someone with your exact access level. The contact who warned you was already inside the system. You didn't stumble onto something dangerous that night. You were walked to it. Every step, the job, the access, the server, the file, the contact, the phone call, the escape. Every single step was a corridor that led to one specific door. The president was their target, but you were someone else's instrument. And the most unsettling part isn't that you were used. People in this world get used. The most unsettling part is that it worked. The operation failed. The window closed. The outcome was prevented, which means you may have done exactly what you were supposed to do. You just don't know whose side you were doing it for. You can never know for certain which side wrote the ending, only that you're in it. Drop a comment. Do you think he ever finds out the truth? And if this story kept you watching, the like means something. The video on your screen right now is about someone else who went in thinking they were in control and found out much too late that the job had always been about them. Watch it. You're already awake.